Like that tonight.
A quick turnaround for a Prime Minister who's barely got her feet under the table back home. Just 2 weeks in and now on the world stage.
Thank you.
Greeting counterparts in New York. But for all the handshakes overseas, it's hardships at home dominating the agenda for Liz Truss.
What I want to see is a growing economy.
A price guarantee for household energy bills taking effect next month. The government stepping in, but funding it by borrowing, rather than taxing the profits of big business. A big ideological shift. The Prime Minister steadfast in sticking to it. Labour's policy to tax the energy companies is supported by 68% of the public, according to polls. You're prepared to be unpopular, aren't you?
Yes, I am. What is important to me is that we grow the British economy. That is what will ultimately deliver more money into people's pockets. And in order to get that economic growth, Britain has to be competitive. And if we put up taxes, if we have arbitrary taxes on energy companies, if we have high corporation tax, we're not going to get that investment and growth, which will ultimately damage opportunities in this country. And that's what I'm bothered about.
The self-declared change candidate of the Conservative leadership race, parting with a tax and spend consensus we've long been living with. You're planning to reverse the corporation tax cut rise, you're scrapping national insurance increases, a big boost to big business, and a tax cut that disproportionately benefits rich people in this country. Is that fair?
I don't accept this argument that cutting taxes is somehow unfair. I mean, what we know is people on higher incomes generally pay more tax. So when you reduce taxes, there is often a disproportionate benefit because those people are paying more taxes in the first place. What I don't accept is the idea that tax cuts on business don't help people in general.
Political arguments of the past now returning. Growth her priority, but it comes with obvious political gamble at the most uncertain of times. What's your message to people out there that will be watching this, who are desperately worried about rising mortgage bills and interest rate rises? It's going to be a rough winter, isn't it?
We are in very difficult economic times. We're facing Putin's war in Ukraine, which has pushed up the prices of energy. I'm determined that my government takes every step and strains every sinew to help people, to get the economy going, to make sure that we have a successful economy and country that can weather this very, very difficult storm that we're facing.
Rough winter, we get through it.
We will get through it.
That economic storm faced by nations far beyond the UK, and how to tackle it, the question for governments. For Liz Truss, it's tax cuts for business, with wealth working its way down to the pockets of the poorer in time. Her US counterpart, Joe Biden, with a very different approach, tweeting to say, "I'm sick and tired of trickle-down economics. It has never worked. We're building an economy from the bottom up and middle out." Liz Truss, a Prime Minister comfortable with drawing political dividing lines and clear-eyed in her approach. She wants to protect business and cut taxes to grow the economy, whatever the short-term political cost. She's gambling that pain now will pay off ahead of a general election in 2024. But that is a huge bet. This an economic crisis that looks set to get worse. The Prime Minister confident she can weather the storm, but much of it depends on what voters think.
So, Beth, the delayed spotlight on Liz Truss then today. So what did you learn from speaking to her?
Well, there was some talk, wasn't there, Anna, during the leadership race that because she was Boris Johnson's preferred candidate, although he never explicitly said that she might be continuity Boris Johnson. Well, I can tell you, on the economy, she is anything but. And this is a real break politically, with what we've had for the past decade or so. In terms of taxation, she wants low tax, she wants to protect business. You expect a raft of policies around that and deregulation. And when I pointed out to her that these policies might be unpopular with the wider public, I said, "Are you prepared about that?" She was very clear. She said, "Yes, I am. I'm going for growth, and that is the priority." But of course, it's a controversial approach. And I think there's sort of three groups, really, that we should look to see how these policies land in the coming weeks. There's firstly the markets. How will they react? There's been a weakening of confidence in British assets, with bonds, equity and sterling all falling over recent weeks, amid nervousness around our policies. Later this week, the Bank of England might feel like they need to put up interest rates. It could be to the highest level in 3 decades, amid nervousness around inflation and some of the falling values of British assets. So how can she assuage those fears? With the public, how will they feel about tax cuts for big business and also richer earners, wealthier people, when they are struggling so much in terms of the cost of living? Will her energy price guarantee, which will give a typical household a cap of about £2,500 on a bill, will that be enough to assuage their concerns? Or will they look at the policies and think, hang on a minute, the taxpayer is going to have to pay for this and we don't like it? And then what about her MPs? Can she bring them behind her? On Friday, we will get the mini budget. That is when the ideas really meet the reality. We'll look for some reaction, and in the coming weeks, we'll just get a sense of how unpopular, potentially, is Liz Truss really prepared to be.